Catus Maximus here again, this time with a quick review of the Harbor Freight brake service set. So this is the service set that you'd use to push caliper pistons back in when you're replacing brake pads. And on rear brake calipers, oftentimes you don't push them, but they have like two holes or some kind of shape on them that you have to actually turn and thread back in. Usually that's due to the self-ratcheting parking brake mechanism. And so this is a service kit that's supposed to pretty much take care of all that, and it's actually really reasonably priced. And for the nature of that kind of tool, a brake service kit, it's not heavy duty. You're not using this with impact wrenches and that kind of stuff. So even though it may not be the highest quality tool steel, and I'm sure it's not, the nature of the tool is it really doesn't need to be that great. And you're pushing in brake calipers, these things just get beat up and dirty. So I like professional grade ones, but the Harbor Freight is actually really handy for how cheap it is. And knowing that you have it, it makes doing disc brakes real fast and easy, because you're not using C-clamps and any of that, trying to use needle nose pliers and battle with rear calipers. So it's a 10-piece set. I think they advertise as an 11-piece set. And when I got it, I saw this little cutout up here. And so I thought, oh, I was missing something. That's just actually to kind of hold in this piece here. It is 11 pieces because the 11th drive is actually the raw anvil right here. And so what they have is a threaded anvil system here. The default anvil is actually just held in by a roll pin. If my camera would focus, see? And then it has two pins. So a lot of rear calipers will have two pins that you'll twist and push. And so that would be the nature of this thing, is that you would take this plate, which just goes over the handle, like so. That sits in the back of the caliper, and on a style that you would twist, you would hold this in with a wrench, and then it would both turn and push in at the same time, and push in the rear caliper. I've read a couple where this threading was coarser than the threading that pushed in the piston, so it would want to jam up, because this was trying to go farther than the piston wanted to per turn. And where that's caused some issues, but people just pull off the plate and use this by hand, which you can do. Just by using the T-handle, you can use it and just press on it, and indeed use it by hand, and sometimes this collar will help align it. The T-handle is interesting because they use really large nubs on it. I've never seen a handle quite like that, but I kind of like it. The other thing they do is they put in a little neodymium magnet. So they have various discs here. I lost a little manual, so I'm not exactly sure what all the different discs with the different, some have these pins in them. But they are for various forms of brake calipers. And if you ever run into one where you have like a notch or something where you need that, you know that these brake kits come with them. But what is nice about that magnet is you can just put it on the bit and it just sticks on there and you can use it. They have various diameter 2 pins. They're all different from this default, so you actually get 5 different sizes of 2 pins, and once again they just snap on there. For front brake calipers, they just have this to push in. It has multiple diameters to sit in the piston cup, and then it's just cut out for these pins, and it just goes on there, and then this just spins inside it as it pushes in the front piston. You have this unique one. I'm not exactly sure what this is for. What's interesting is they do have one that may be stubborn. I should say 4 stubborn brake calipers, because it has the same pin spacing as the default insert, but it's a 3/8 inch drive, so it's kind of interesting. It's a socket that's kind of with the whole rest of the set, but you don't use it with the tool. It's just a 3/8 inch drive, and I'm sure that's just because there's some that are really tough, and so it's kind of nice that they give you an option to have a socket drive. So that's really all there is to say. We can compare them against some other brake tools here. The most common without this kit for doing rear calipers is these weird cubes, which have various different pin spacings and shapes on them. You would still want to have these in addition to this kit, just because these cubes have shapes that aren't available in the kit. So they kind of complement each other, but the cubes are what are really common. We have an American-made Powerbilt and a Taiwanese one here. Additionally, OEM Tools makes one that's a tri-prong, and I haven't ever seen a tri-prong, but I decided to pick this up because I'm sure that if I ever ran into one, it would be really hard to try to drive just offset with 2. So I did get this, and it's self-adjusting. And then OEM also has a standard 2-pin. These aren't going to be quite as heavy duty as these discs, but these aren't used in real high force applications. Another nice aspect of the 2-pin is you can use it as a pin spanner socket, self-adjusting. And I've run into lock rings and some other situations, angle grinders, which I just didn't have a wrench the right pin spacing. And then this has proven to be very handy for that, in addition to actually using it on rear brake calipers. One other nice aspect of these I've found is that when you get it into the holes and you're pressing on the brake caliper, the way it kind of draws them in and pinches does tend to make this one hold in a little better. Anyway, that was just a quick review of the Harbor Freight brake service set and some other brake service tools. Really appreciate everybody watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.